In the last episode, I fit the rubber roof on the top of the workshop, and in this episode, I will be fitting the windows and doors. After reviewing the prices of a brand new French door online, you could expect to pay anywhere from the region of about £1,000 to £2,000. And if you want those fancy bifold doors, then you could be looking upwards of about £4,000 or £5,000. I didn't want to pay that, so I spent quite a lot of time looking on Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree until I found this second-hand French door, which comes with these nice rolling blinds as well, which I think is an absolute bargain. I also know someone that installs windows as their day job, and they were able to keep an eye out for me and found this second-hand window that I plan on installing. The second-hand window is not as good as the door that I've bought, but to be honest, I don't actually plan on opening this window that often. This is really just at that end of the workshop just to let light in. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is cutting down this windowsill to the width of the window. After cutting down that windowsill, I did just check that it was the right width by putting it in the hole in that sidewall there. I then used some 50mm screws to attach the windowsill to the bottom of the window from the underside. So before you fit any window, you do just want to put a spirit level on it and make sure that the bubble is perfectly in the center, which this is, so that's good. And because the bottom of the windowsill was level and the sill has now been attached, we could move the window into place. We started off by fixing the windowsill on one side using one screw at the bottom. And now that we've got that one screw in at the bottom on one of the windows, I'm just using a spirit level just to make sure that we are level sort of that way before we fix in the top on this side. And that there is perfect. With that side leveled up, we then secured it in place with another screw at the top. So now we've got that one side fixed in, you can see that we've got a bit of a gap there. So before we put these screws in, we just need to fit some packers behind it. You can see that we've got this packer just behind where this screw is going. Got my dad outside checking its level, and then we'll just bang that in. The trick is with the other side, you don't want to screw in so much that it pulls the PVC out. You don't want it pinching it out, so you want to screw it in just enough. And with the window frame fully secured, we could now move the glass back in and secure it in place using the beading. And some people might be put off by using second-hand windows. Me, I'm not that bothered, and it's got the added benefit of we are recycling here. If we didn't use this, then this would just end up in landfill. So, you know, good for the planet, which is nice. I did also want to show just that I'm finishing the actual window level with where the OSB in this felt is. At the moment, that might seem a bit odd because you wouldn't usually have it level. You'd usually have it set in a bit, but you do have to remember that we're going to have 50mm of batten and then the cladding on here. So by the time we've done that, the actual width of the wall will be sticking out a bit further than that window, which is why it's finishing flush right now. So as you can see, this window is now in, but for reasons that I haven't figured out yet, it doesn't actually let me shut it. I'll show you. Keeps getting stuck there. For a free window, I can hardly complain, but I am going to take a little visit down to Screwfix. I've seen the replacement hinges there being sold for just over £12, and I'm hoping that if I replace them, then that will actually solve the problem and the window will be able to shut. Luckily, those hinges were very straightforward to change. We used the old ones as a reference point just to make sure that we were putting them in the right way round. And with those no hinges in, this is now opening and shutting lovely. And now that this window's in, you can see quite clearly at the top, there's a huge gap. Now, it's normal to have gaps at the sides of your windows when you're installing it. In fact, you want that because you can pack it out. But that gap up there is definitely too big to just fill with expanding foam. So I'm going to use the table saw and an offcut of wood just to try and cut a piece of 2x4 to actually get in there. And I'll fix it in with some screws from this angle. And then whatever gap is remaining after that, I can fill with expanding foam. And I need a piece that is 10mm on one side and then 40mm on the other side. So the first thing I'm doing is just cutting down a strip of this OSB board. So now I've cut this OSB and I know it's parallel. This is a straight cut and I've got the right length bit here. So I'm going to mark 10mm there and just under 40mm on this end. So that's now been fixed to that piece of wood using just a couple of nails. You don't want to go too mad because it will get stuck. And now I should be able to run that through there. Because I cut two of these angled lengths separately, I did need to glue and clamp them together. and I waited till the next day to finish this off. And now that glue has gone off, I should be able to bang this into the gap here, just using a hammer. I'll need to make sure that I don't bang it in too far. It wants to finish just level with where the current 2x4 is. I can then just pre-drill just a few holes and fix that end just using a few 50mm wood screws. And that is going to create a really nice tight seal around all of here. And then using that same method, I've just cut a bit of OSB that I'll just tuck under here as well, just to bring the thickness out above this window. And then I'm going to hammer that in just using a couple of nails. And using that multi-tool, I'm just going to cut away these parts of the spacers that I've used at the edge of the window and the doors. And then I'll just grab a Stanley knife and cut off the overlapping felt here as well. Now this window is pretty much bang on for what I need. The only thing that I am going to replace is this handle. It is a bit battered, and I think for the sake of like £6 to buy a new handle, it's going to be well worth replacing. But that is exactly what I was looking for, so I'm happy with that. Before we move on to the doors, I did just want to show you the latest grass update from episode 4. You can see that it is coming through very well. This has been about 2 months since I put that seed down, and I'm overall really impressed with it. And if you're wondering what that lawnmower is in the background, then I'll be doing a video on that in a couple of weeks. So now we're moving on to the door, but whoever has taken out this old windowsill didn't do a particularly neat job at this edge. So I'm going to take the very minimal cut off of this with the miter saw, just to make sure we've got a neat edge on either side. So again, I'm just pre-drilling this windowsill from underneath so I can fix it to this door. And you do just want to make sure when you're putting these screws in from underneath that they don't penetrate through the bottom here. So you can see that those 50mm screws have landed perfect and they're not sticking out. So now that this door is in place, the first thing that we want to do is just make sure that the side that we're going to screw in first is level. And what I'm doing is I've got these 80mm wood screws, and then on the back of them I've just got a little washer, just because I don't want them to push through the actual plastic. So we're going to get one in at the top, and then we'll check the level before putting the rest in. So this is just how the screws are going in. So you can see I've just got a little washer behind that wood screw, and that's just enough just to make sure that that screw doesn't actually pull straight through the plastic. And we'll just do that for every single screw. So the way these packers work is you're putting them in behind the PVC of the frame here, but the way you want to line your screws up is that they actually land in the middle here, and that's just to make sure that you've got equal pressure either side of the screw. So we've put this in where the screw is going to be landing, and then we can put that in. And this door frame also had a hole at the top, so we're using that as justification to put in another screw at the top here. We're just again putting a packer in, and then we'll put a screw up there. Level there. Level there. That should mean that now we check the top, we are level there too. And in the bottom of this door frame, there are some holes. I don't think you would usually drill it at the bottom, but it seems to make more sense to me to put a screw in it if there is a hole. So we're going to just drill this through with an SDS drill. And in theory, the door should just slot in lovely now. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is using some expanding foam. I'm just going to fill in all of the gaps around the edges of the window and the door. And this is just to make sure that they are absolutely airtight. And I'm not worried about it leaking out for now because I'll be able to get that off once it's gone hard. So as you can see, I've gone around all of those gaps and just put the expanding foam in on both the window as well as the door. And I've gone from the inside as well as the outside. And with that expanding foam in place and peeled off, the door and window are now ready to be used. If you're enjoying the series so far, then please do go ahead and smash the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time when we install uPVC.